Very glad that this gentleman is with us as well. It is the great Joe Theismann on the show with us. Hi, Joe. How's it going?
Good, guys. Mark, good to catch up with you. Larry, hello to you as well.
Good to see you, Joe. Good to hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great to get your thoughts on some of this. Chase Young, who are the 49ers getting?
You know, it's you're going to get a healthier product than he's had in Washington. Chase has struggled with some injuries. The most recent was a neck and a knee, obviously. And I just think he's extremely talented. He's very young at the position. I think he's a kid that can grow into developing different moves and being a contributing factor to the 49er front. I mean, it gives you some depth, if nothing else.
Joe, is he the same player that he was coming out of Ohio State?
You know, I think he's probably better than he was coming out of Ohio State simply because he's had some years in the NFL and he's continued to learn and grow. He's still, I think, learning on counter moves. He relies so much on his speed at this point, and I think that's going to continue to develop for him as he goes forward. I think the world of the coaching staff out in San Francisco, and I just believe that they're going to get everything they can out of Chase and put him in position where he can make impacts in the game, and that's going to be an important thing. Where do you play him? How do you play him? He's always played basically what amounts to the right defensive end position. Montez Sweat was on the other side. But he's been versatile enough to move around a little bit. And I think you get yourself a player who's going to definitely be hungry and feel like he has something to prove. Because remember, it's the last year of a contract or thereabouts. That's part of the reason why they moved him. You already paid your defensive tackles about combined $40 million. There was no way they were going to pay both defensive ends again. I mean, how much money can you tie up just in your defensive line? No team in football would have 3 defensive linemen making that kind of money. So I figured one of them was going to be moved. I thought it might be Chase. Montez has been healthy and did a terrific job as well. But Chase was the one that I thought would be given the opportunity to be able to take his wares someplace else and be an impact player.
Joe Theismann with us here on 95.7 The Game. Joe, you said you think the world of the coaching staff in San Francisco. I wonder what you think of the coaching staff in Washington, and I mean it from this perspective. There are reports circulating over the last 24 hours that coaching staff felt like Chase Young kind of was undisciplined at times, looking for splash plays instead of working within the system. What is your take on that? Did you see the same thing?
Now, I saw him be aggressive and up the field rusher. Like I said, I still think he's got a lot of development to do. I mean, everybody does. Tom Brady, after 20-plus years, I talked to Tom. He said, every day you have to grow. Every day you have to get better. And you talk to any player that's been around a long time, that's the objective, is to learn something on a continuing basis. And I think in Chase's instance, I think he's going to be one of those players. I think he's going to be asked to do some things and learn how to do other things that'll complete his game much more. I wasn't there. I didn't listen to the coaches. I haven't heard what they say. People say a lot of things about different players, but this, I know, is a great opportunity for him to be able to show people what he's got. And he's on a heck of a football team, a team that many people feel is the best team in the NFC.
He's a very young player. I don't think people realize he's only 24 years old. One of the things that John Lynch said this morning, Joe, was that people commented that there may be some character concerns. He says, I think highly of Chase. The people who I respect in that building think highly of him. Nick Bosa thinks highly of him from their days at Ohio State together. Is there a character issue here in any way?
Not that I've ever heard in Washington. His biggest problem was he got hurt. He just didn't get a chance to play. And, you can't get hurt and all of a sudden, if you have like he had a great year, his rookie year, and then you get nicked up for a year or two, and you're not going to be the same player you were when you came out of school and you were healthy and you were just, all full of piss and vinegar and going out and getting everything done. It's different. It evolves. And then people in our business, you give coaches an opportunity to study you. They're going to figure out what you don't do well, and they're going to make you do that. And that's why I think having Bosa there with him is one of the best things that could happen to him. He's got somebody that he knows. He's got somebody who's familiar with him, and he's got somebody that can teach him some of the things that he's learned. Has made him one of the greatest defensive ends in football.
Joe, what is it you love so much about the 49ers coaching staff?
I think they do a great job. I think Kyle's one of the best coaches in football. I think he's one of the top 1, 2, maybe 3 best play callers in football. You look at the success that he has had. Unfortunately for him, his quarterback position, when Brock was playing, Purdy was doing the things he was doing. It was amazing. And now, this game's critical for them because they got to find their way again. But I think they're very good teachers, which I think is number one. I think they try and get the most they can out of the players, and they put players in positions to be able to make plays. And that to me, I consider that an excellent coaching staff.
Joe, Brock Purdy was a revelation at the start. The Niners start out 5-0. He can process what he sees. The ball comes out on time. He's pretty accurate. But the last 3 games, the offense has been limited to 17 points a game. They turned it over 7 times, and he's thrown some picks late. If you were to run into him, what would you say to a young quarterback who's struggling at the NFL level, really for the first time?
We all go through it. It's the same thing I sent Sam Howell. Hey, listen, he had a horrible game, and I said, listen, man, you all go through that period where things just they aren't clicking like they were, and you just have to press forward. You have to study why they happen, and then you have to correct the issues. I think he gets the ball out of his hands well. I think he's accurate. His arm is plenty strong enough to do the things that he needs to do. And then you manage the football game. Some of the interceptions he threw over the last couple of games, they're head scratchers. But we've all done it. I just think, just keep getting better every day. How am I going to get better? How can I help our football team win? What do I need to do to improve myself so that it gives us a chance to be able to do the things that we want to do? You're not going to go back because you're not going to play the same kind of teams. But you're going to have to put yourself in a position where you're a manager. I get sideways sometimes when people talk about, well, this guy's a manager, that guy's a manager. Every quarterback in the National Football League is a manager. You manage the game. You manage down and distance. You manage score. You manage win. You manage the players. You manage, what you need for a first down. You need to manage how much you're going to take a shot. All those things are part of the management. I don't care whether you're Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron. I don't care who you are. Our job is to manage the football game and manage it well. And, that has to do with the physical part of it and executing the plays you need to execute.
Joe Theismann is with us, Willard and Dibs. Larry's in for Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Joe, I wonder, maybe you're not as aware of this. Maybe this is more of a local thing, but the talk around a player like Brock Purdy is different. Because he's a 7th rounder, Mr. Irrelevant, wasn't supposed to be the guy. And so he's hit this social media age thing where his whole career is defined by whatever we most recently saw him do. Right. Can you compare that to anything? What's your take on the way the world reacts to Brock?
I think the simple thing for Brock is don't listen to the noise. I would tell any young player, don't listen to the noise. The only ones you want to listen to is the coaching staff, what they're directing you, how they're helping you get better, the things that you need to do, like I said before. But everybody's got an opinion about everything today. It doesn't matter. And everybody seems to have the answer to the problem that exists. In Brock's case, he's still learning how to play the game. I mean, this wasn't gonna last. Who are we kidding? He wasn't going to be a 17-0 season. He wasn't going to go through the season, throw 45 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions. This is one of those things that you learn from. I used to have a sign. There was a simple sign in my locker, and it read like this: you never have to be the reason a team wins. You just can't be the reason it loses. Think of it. You just can't be the reason a team wins, but you can't be the reason it loses. And that's the quarterback position. That's making good decisions with the ball in your hand, executing plays when you have the opportunity. If you're in the red zone, you're throwing an interception on 1st and 10. That's a cardinal sin. You can't do that. And I see, you see guys trying to make plays. The thing that I saw in Brock at the end of last year and early part of the year is you don't have to try and make plays. He's got enough great talent around him. And you'll be getting, hopefully, some of the players back that have been out. But let them do their job. We're facilitators, basically. The ball comes out of our hands. It's either handed off to somebody or given to somebody. And then, oh, by the way, you got 11 guys on the other side of the ball. And then you got a terrific kicker to make kicks. So you have to understand where you fit in and be able to, not listen to what's being said or somebody's opinion about what they think you ought to do.
So, Joe, I like the sign that was in your locker. How does that apply to Brock? Do you think he's been the reason that they've lost the last 3 weeks?
No. He's made some decisions. I mean, they got behind. He's had to put the ball in the air. That wasn't all on him. But I'm just saying, you have to. It's not the physical part of it. It's the mental part of it. And that was just a reminder to me each week is the way I wanted to approach the game. His evaluation is what his evaluation is, and the coach's is. They know. Why are you losing football games? Are you missing tackles? Are you missing opportunities? Those are things that the coaches evaluate.
It's so interesting. You and Brock have similar height and dimensions. I mean, I always feel like if this guy was 6'5" and 240, he'd probably have more fans. But, just in studying your own career, Joe, you came into the league in 74. You didn't really play consistently until 78. Really, your best ball came, in your early 30s. 33, right. 34 was your year that you won the MVP. How were you a different player at that point than the player that came out of Notre Dame in the mid-70s?
I had different players around me. I never played heavier than 185 pounds. 15 years in the league, 3 in Canada, 12 in the Canadian in the NFL. But I never played heavier than 185. I was all arm. I was a skinny little kid with an arm. Truthfully, when I watch Brock play, he reminds me a little bit of the way I felt like I had to play the game. We're not the biggest guys, so you have to get the ball out quick. You have to make good decisions. You have to be decisive with the football. You have to make good decisions with the football. You look at him when he plays his best football. Those are the two things that he does extremely well. And you can compensate for height differentials in that regard. He's mobile enough. I was mobile enough just to be able to move and make plays, do the things you need to. And then when you get out on the edge, protect yourself so that you can continue to play and continue to get better. I mean, what happened in the championship game was a terrible thing. Not having, when you're down to your running back being your quarterback. I mean, San Francisco's been knocking on the door for the last couple of years and they haven't been able to break it back down again. But I still think it's a team to be reckoned with. And like I say, I see some of the things from a size-wise that Brock does that I had to do playing the position.
Hey, Joe, real quick, you're talking to a market that watched Jimmy Garoppolo take their team to a Super Bowl once upon a time, and now with a new team, he's benched long-term after 6 games. What do you see in his game? What's going on there? I mentioned 2 things. You need to make good decisions, and you need to be decisive. Probably the pass he missed to Devontae the other night. He was so wide open. I was shocked. Yeah.
When I looked at the TV and I did not see a defender within 15 yards of him, I thought somehow or other you just have to get him the football. Let him stop and fair catch it if he has to. But just put it in a place where you can get the ball to his hands, because that was a critical point of the game. I think Jimmy has been in and out of the lineup so much through injury that he's not been able to find any consistency and rhythm in his game. And you need that as a quarterback. You need a rhythm. You like the coach to get the plays in quick, and you're getting it rolling. You're moving along. You're making good decisions. Bang, bang. It's out of your hands. Okay, we made a play. We make another play. But then all of a sudden, it's the same thing about being injured. You play 4 or 5 games, then you're hurt for 2 weeks. Then it's back again, and then you lose your feel in the pocket. You lose that sense of the people around you, and then I call it, you're starting to see ghosts. Guys aren't really there, but you feel like the pressure's there. And I think Jimmy's going to be around. It's a tough situation right now with the Raiders. I mean, you've got basically one receiver that's making plays, and he was put under siege the other night. So it's not easy. We had that a couple of weeks ago with Sam Howell. I mean, he leads the league in sacks. There were 40 of them. going into this last game. 40 in 7 games. At this rate, he'll shatter Carr's record of being sacked. So, I think that, Jimmy has to stay healthy enough to be able to continue to improve on the things that he needs to do to get better.
Joe, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles are 7-1, but the Commanders played them really tough. I mean, I think the Eagles got them in overtime one game.
Twice,
the Eagles came back and had a big fourth quarter and got them in Maryland. What are the Commanders doing to hang around with the Eagles? I mean, it seems like the road to the Super Bowl for the 49ers is probably going to go through the Eagles, whether it's at Levi's or there at the Link. What's the key to beating them or to competing with them? Because Washington's probably looked as good as anybody this year against them.
I think stopping the run and covering A.J. Brown. You just can't let him take over a game. Same thing happened in the first game. Same thing happened in the second game. He basically took over the game, made a spectacular catch in this last game. And, we had receivers open in the later drives and just weren't able to convert. It's the same thing happened against the Giants. You got somebody, you're going to get a first down on the 2-yard line, and you don't make a play. The Commanders are 1 or 2 plays away from getting over the hump and making a play to win a game. Because, Joe Gibbs used to tell us all the time, and it makes so much sense. And I've had many conversations with Bill Walsh. We used to play tennis together. And, what you have to do is you have to be able to make the plays when they're available to you. And it's going to be a 60-minute game. You have to be prepared to go 60 minutes. It's not 45. It's not 50. It's not 55. You got to be prepared to know that at the end, it could boil down to one drive. It could boil down to one block. It could be boiled down to one pass. But that's what it's got to be to give us a chance to win. And the Commanders have just come up short in those areas, just making that one play that keeps the drive alive, that one catch or that one block, or not having that penalty. That's been the story of the year so far.
Joe, it's great stuff, man. Great to have your perspective on all of this. Thank you so much for your time.
Always good to catch up with you guys. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep, there he goes. Bye. Joe Theismann here on 95.7 The Game.